Hi there, I'm Joe Kyburz, and I'm here to talk to you about leadership. It seems the way that West Point teaches leadership is we often focus on the pitfalls of bad leadership, and we make it black and white. We give you situations where we only talk about the shortcomings of leadership. We don't talk about the good examples, the knights in shining armor that can lead platoons well and really show what good leadership is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what right should look like. I'm going to discuss some leadership lessons that I've learned over my time here and that I've tried to keep track of. I'm going to discuss these lessons and how they've impacted my character development and my perspective on leadership. So leadership, as I said, isn't always black and white. There are a lot of good situations and bad situations. The first one that I can think of is at CLDT this past summer. And this is a lesson that I've learned dating back to even high school. My wrestling coach, when I would start doing fancy moves on the mat and I didn't know what I was doing, I just really wanted to score points big, and I had to get them somehow. He would say, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. You got to keep it simple because you're not going to get anything done if you're just doing fancy stuff that you don't know is going to work. So you have to be result oriented, but you have to do things that you know are going to work. You have to do things in a way that's tried and true. And innovation will come at times that innovation needs to come. So why vanilla, chocolate, strawberry? Because it would remind me to stick with the double eggs, single eggs that work, not, flying squirrel or something. Because in a match, that's what counts. And in leadership, it's the same. You keep it simple, and you're able to lead people in a direction where they can find a common purpose and achieve a goal. So back to CLDT, as I was saying, I was in charge of an ambush. And my ambush, I was super nervous for it. I was the only one of 3-4 cows in a platoon full of firsties. And I started out screwing up the op order, and I planned the ambush so that I had to do an LDA crossing when I didn't have to, according to the lane walker. And so going from there, I thought, okay, well, this mission is, somehow it's going south, but I gotta somehow try and salvage this. So I tried to give it my own purpose, direction, motivation, and what I did is I overcomplicated it. I moved the ORP to a complicated place, I gave complicated directions, did the leader's recon a weird way, the LDA a weird way, because I wanted everything to be perfect, and it went the opposite direction. And something that the lane walker told me that stuck with me is keep it stupid, simple, stupid. And, as mildly insulting that jive was, it kind of taught me something that I think is going to stick with me as a leader for the rest of my Army career. And that's, keep it simple. Don't make things up when you're confused. You got to stick back on that training that you've had. And that's why I think that the training that teaches us the good things is more important than only teaching us the pitfalls, because we don't want to fall back on what we've learned if all we've learned is the pitfalls. Going into that, the CLDT lane walker showed a lot of emotional intelligence because he knew just by the small interactions he had with me the best way to deal with me. Well, I'm going to give another example when I was at Buckner that was not the case. So we had this lane walker. He was a first lieutenant, fresh out of Ranger School, and he didn't like our patrol base at all. This was probably the 4th, 5th day of the FTX. Somehow my entire company had some sort of sickness where coming out of both ends, and we just weren't feeling good as a platoon. And it was a cold morning, but he didn't like our patrol base, so he blew us out. He threw the RD Sims, and everyone's up, he's moving. The only one that's yelling without purpose, direction, motivation is him. He's yelling, what you gonna do, PL? You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. And it gives you an appreciation for the quality of training. But what happened is he made us redo that iteration 3 times. People were carrying 3 rucks, people were carrying 2 people, going back 4 rifles. It was, everyone was all over the place. We weren't learning about what we were doing. We were just in a stressful situation because he wanted us to be stressed out. He had that Ranger School experience, and he wanted us to be stressed out. And so we were lying there pulling security for the next 45 minutes. And we're in the cold, we're all shivering in the grass, all completely soaked through our ACUs just from the dew in the grass. And they say, quit. Quit. What you gonna do, PL? Quit. You can come right now, you can quit. So no one in my platoon really knew what he meant when he said quit. I think we were all thinking, all right, like, sure, we'll quit. What does that really entail? It's not like you're going to get us kicked out of this detail. It doesn't really make sense. This isn't Ranger School, sir. But that's not really the approach he took to it. What actually ended up happening was we had 12 cold cats out of our platoon, and the entire platoon ended up being treated at a med tent with space heaters, and like we had to dry off our clothes because that leader was so committed to giving us that good training, which for some of the people in our platoon was good training, was not tailored to everyone. And so he lacked that emotional intelligence to recognize when his leadership wasn't being effective for everyone. And that is just a prime example for me of a lack of emotional intelligence in leadership. From there, I have another good example from Beast, where an officer showed me good emotional intelligence. I, was in the mess hall, and this captain walked by. I'm like shaking in my pants. I'm a new cadet. Sir, he's like, you don't salute inside high speed. It's like, oh, yes, sir. And he just kept going. But he knew, like, he kind of chuckled to himself. He knew that correction was just a simple correction, didn't make a big deal about it, because that thing alone taught me, and that simple story from Beast stuck with me today. And that kind of gentle correction where it's strict, but gets to the point and actually drives home the leadership lesson is something that I would aspire to have when I'm dealing with subordinates. And that type of thing, where you lead your subordinates, you lead your peers, and you lead the people that lead you, 360-degree leadership, that's important. And a way that you can do that is by always being authentic, always being genuine to yourself, genuine to your organization, genuine to the people around you. And a lot of the times when West Point details, that doesn't happen. So people often say, like, dress for the job you want to have, not the job you have. And that means preparing yourself for future roles in more important positions where you have to, be more intelligent, more focused, more driven, so that you can better show those values for the top leadership positions. But it kind of gets twisted, and it goes backwards with a lot of the cadets that fall into leadership details, because they think that when they're just going to decide on the day of who they're going to be, that they're going to fall right into that leadership role, and it's just going to flip a switch. What they do is they kind of twist what the leadership role should be and make up their own version. And when they make up their own version, they're not authentic to themselves or the role, and they think they are. And that's really troublesome for a lot of people, because it truly is toxic, and it hurts those around them, it hurts their peers, it hurts their subordinates, and it even hurts their leaders. Something that we can do to help fix that is just constantly preparing ourselves, constantly self-reflecting, and becoming a better person, starting with ourselves.